Hello everyone, how are you all? This is your educator Vijaya Manorama. Subscribe my channel Vijaya Manorama Tutorials. So today I am going to discuss the second part of the chapter Plant Kingdom Plantae. This topic is very much useful and this session is going to be very much useful for class 11th and as well as the children those who are appearing for NEET. The pupil who are appearing for NEET and class 11th also. So जितना ज़्यादा हो सके अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ शेयर करो, लाइक करो सेशन को और नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में मेरा टेलीग्राम चैनल है. कोई भी डाउट्स हो तो यू कैन विजिट देयर एंड यू कैन आस्क मी राइट फ्रॉम 9th to 12th साइंस, ओके, विच इज इंक्लूडेड विद फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री बायो, राइट. सो चलो हियर वी गो. So as we have discussed about all the other major groups like Thallophyta, Bryophyta. So today we are going to discuss about bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, so bryophyta, already this topic we have discussed, but here again we have to start from this topic. That's why I am giving the introduction part. Bryophyta, which means bryon means mosses and phyton means plants, which is consist of around 2500 species. Okay, here it is around 2500 species are there of bryophytes. They comprise of mosses and liverworts. Okay, so bryophytes stand at level higher than that of algae but lower than that of pteridophytes and seed plants. Mostly they grow in moist shady habitats. The plant body is thalloid, which is called as thallus is dorsiventral and closely pressed to the substrate. Okay, leafy members have tiny leaf-like appendages on stem-like structures. There are so many economic importance also there. Here generally we find in the form of mosses. Okay, they survive, these bryophytes, they generally survive only in the moist places. Okay, they generally grow in moist shady habitats only. The peat mosses, or which is also called as sphagnum. Okay, sphagnum plants, which are most important bryophytes from the point of view of their direct economic importance. What is that name? Sphagnum. Okay, so this is useful for as a sorbent bandage in place of cotton. In the hospitals it is used. The plants absorb and hold water in them. For these properties they are used in seed beds and greenhouses to root cuttings. They are also used to maintain high soil acidity required by certain plants. Okay, so how the reproduction takes place? Reproduction in two ways: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, like fragmentation and buds are formed. Those they are also called as gametes. They are like green colored multicellular. They are located on thalli in gamma cups. They get detached and germinate to form new individual. Sexual reproduction, male and female organs produced on the same of different thalli. Saprophyte differentiated into food, setae and capsule. Okay, spores are present in the capsule. The spore mother cells are produced within the sporangium. It is produced. They are generally diploid and represent the last stage of the saprophyte generation. Diploid they are, right? So these spores mother cells, they undergo the meiosis and the tetrads of haploid spores are formed. The spores represent the beginning of the gametophytic generation. The spores germinate to start the life cycle again. Okay, so this sexual reproduction in liverworts is similar, except that the sex organs are generally born on stalks. They are called as anthridiophores. Okay, anthridiophores and archegoniophores, as in Marsantia. Like these spores, they germinate to form free living gametophyte. So next one is mosses. Mosses have lots of importance. That's what we have discussed. Mosses, they are gametophyte and sporophyte, both it comes under. Sporophyte means sporangium. Sporangium is developed. Sporophytes means, right? So sphagnum, gametophyte. There are lots of economic importance is also there, which already we have discussed these all. So next come to the gametophyte. Gametophyte has two different stages. Predominant stage. In the predominant stage, gametophyte is divided into two: protonema and leafy stage. In the protonema, the spores are developed. Okay, spores are developed. Creeping, green, filamentous and branched they are. Leafy stage, if you see, that develops from secondary protonema as a lateral bud, consists of upright, slender, axis bearing leaves attached to soil by multicellular branched rhizoids. They bear sex organs. Okay, the reproduction is of two types: vegetative reproduction and sexual reproduction. Vegetative reproduction, fragmentation only. And next, budding is formed in the secondary protonema. Right. Then sexual, if you see, sex organs at apex of shoots, they are of two types: antheridia and archegonia. Archegonia, after fertilization, zygote develops into sporophyte. Okay, sporophyte or sporangium it is called as, right? This sporangium is consist of three parts: foot, setae and capsule, right? In bryophytes, the saprophyte is they are completely dependent for its nourishment upon the gametophytes. Okay, saprophytes, they completely depend for the complete development and nourishment upon the gametophyte. The foot of the saprophytes, they remain embedded in the tissues of gametophyte and acts as hostorium. Okay, so this archegonia, after fertilization, zygote develops into saprophytes. Sporophytes. So what are these sporophytes? They are more elaborate than liverworts. They consist of foot, setae and capsule. Capsule is consist of spores. Okay, spores are formed by meiosis. Elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. The example is funaria, polytrichum and sphagnum. Okay, so the life cycle of this bryophyte, sporophytes, they are consist of foot, setae and capsule completely. The sporangium of the body is consist of this, right? Okay, this is about gametophytes and sporophytes, right? Chalo. Next come to the pteridophytes. Okay, pteridophyte, the general characteristics are: the dominant plant body is sporophyte. First terrestrial plants to possess xylem and phloem. Found in cool, damp, shady places. Have well differentiated true stem, leaves and roots. Leaves may be microphyls as in Selaginella or macrophyls as in ferns. So ferns are the main here. Some 10,000 species of ferns. Other name is pteridophytes. Pteridophytes or ferns they are called as. Okay. In some pteridophytes, sporophylls form distinct compact structures. They are called as storobelli or cones. Okay, which we find in Selaginella and Equisetum. Sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. Spores germinate to form small multicellular free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. So here first, these are the general characteristics which you need to remember, because each and every sentence is in the form of a fill in the blank or multiple choice question. So now come to the pteridophytes meaning. If you see, pteris means fern, okay, and phyta or python is called as plant, okay. There are 10,000 species of ferns, okay. 10,000 species of ferns or pteridophytes. They are ranging from tree-like dimensions of those growing in the tropics to but a few inches in height, okay. They are of different sizes based on this, if we understand. So ferns are more or less intermediate in size and are exemplified by such common fern plants as the maidenhead or walking fern, it is called as, okay. So here if you see, this pteridophytes has 4 major classes: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida, right. Psilopsida, the example is Xylotum. Lycopsida is Selaginella and Lycopodium, and Sphenopsida and Equisetum. Pteropsida is Dryopteris, Pteris and Ediantum, okay. Ediantum is nothing but the other name of this is walking fern. Walking fern, right. Pteris, it is called as bracken fern. These are some of the common Indian ferns. Dryopteris is also called as common Indian fern. This is also common Indian fern. These all are very, very important for the NEET students. Please do remember, okay. Ferns, write down fern. These all are nothing but ferns only, no? Fern, okay. The stem of fern is a perennial rhizome, okay. The stem grows horizontally beneath the soil surface from years to year. So the rhizome, they bears only a few branches stem. At the end of the rhizome, the terminal buds are present. So these terminal buds are responsible for the growth in length. From the upper surface of the stems of these growing point arises leaves are called as fronds, and the lower surface emerges are called as adventitious roots, okay. Next one, if you see gametophyte we got. So gametophytes, they require cool, damp, shady places to grow. They also require water for sexual reproduction. This gametophyte is of 2 types: Antheridium and Archegonium, male and females. Antheridium are motile. They have antherozoids, and Archegonium are female. They are non-motile. They have egg cells. The fusion takes place and it forms a zygote, which produces a well-differentiated multicellular sporophytes or sporangium. These sporophytes, they produce spores of 2 types, homosporous and heterosporous. All the spores of same type are called as homosporous, and heterosporous, they are of 2 different, some are large and some are small, macrospores and microspores. These macrospores, they germinate and form the female gametophyte, which retain on parent sporophyte. The development of zygote inside the female gametophyte takes place, or precursor to seed habit. Next is microspores. Micro word itself is telling it is a small. They germinate and give the male gametophyte. The examples of heterospory. The examples of heterospory, these two, Selaginella and Equisitum. So now come to the division gymnosperms, seed plants without flowers. Without flowers, they are called as gymnosperm. Gymnospermial. So word gymnosperms, gymnos means naked and sperma means seeds without flowers only. So the gymnosperms, they have very long been considered as a group of seed bearing plants. Okay, seed bearing plants. Together with the angiosperms, they are known as phanerogams and spermatophytes. Okay, so seed forms after fertilizations are not covered, they are naked. They include medium sized trees, shrubs and tall trees. Contains the world's tallest tree, sequoia, the giant redwood tree it is. Okay, sequoia. Okay, plants have tap roots. Roots in some genera show symbiotic association. Mycorrhiza shows association of fungi with pinus roots. Coralloid roots of cycas show association with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Leaves are well adapted to withstand extreme conditions in conifers. They have needle-like leaves with thick cuticle and sunken stomata. Okay, they reduce surface area and water loss. The stems and leaves, if you see, the stems are branched in pinus and cedrus, unbranched in cycas. Leaves are simple in pinus and compound in cycas. Okay, so they comprises of trees and shrubs which are characterized by xeromorphic, acicular or fern-like leaves and unisexual fluorescence. Okay, these all other points are also very important. Xeromorphic, acicular or fern-like leaves, and it has unisexual fluorescence. Right? The views, they lie exposed on the megasporophylls, which are open and therefore devoid of a style and a stigma. The pollen grains are spherical or oval, often with a bladder-like extension is also present in them of the exine, as in the pine it is present. The pollination is direct in the sense that the pollen grains, or at least the pollen tubes, they reach the nucleus of the ovule without the intervention of the stigma and style. They through with the pollen tubes have to penetrate in angiosperms, right? So the seed, the pollination, how it takes place when the seed falls on that, it just extends a pollen tube and reaches to ovule, right? So this is about gymnosperms. If you see, they are sporophytes. They are of two types: heterosporous microspores and megaspores. Spores produced within sporangia, borne on sporophylls, which form strobili or cones. These strobili are of two types, male and female. Male, they bear microsporophylls, and female, they bear megasporophylls. So microspores also they develop, and they develop into a male gametophytes. This female changes as megaspores, and that develop into female gametophyte. They still retain on megasporangium. They bear two or more archeogonia. Okay, all the conifers are long-lived plants, and some of them may live around 1,000 years, and few of them like sequoias, xanthia. Okay, and one more is there. Taxodium mucronatum. Right? Taxodium mucronatum and Sequoia zezantia. Okay, they are said to be living for last 4,000 years. They are living right from last 4,000 years or more. In this country, the deodar tree attains at the age of 750 to 900 years. Okay, in India. It stays for 750 to 900 years. Right? So male and female strawberry may be born on same tree, that is pinus, or on different trees like cycas. Megaspores mother cells, they divide meiotically to form 4 megaspores. Megaspore mother cell is a differentiated cell of nucellus. Nucellus protected by envelopes is known as ovule. Male and female gametophytes do not have independent existence, hence remain within sporangia. Okay. What are the steps of fertilization? If you see, pollen grains released from microsporangium. Okay. That carried by air currents and come in contact with the ovules. The discharge of pollen content on mouth of archegonia, and there the fertilization occurs and formation of zygote takes place, and development of zygote into embryo and ovules into naked seeds. Okay. Once the pollen grain falls here, it extends a pollen tube and it passes. Right? So here the fertilization takes place, formation of zygote, development of zygote into embryo, and ovules into naked seeds are formed. Examples as pinus and cycas. What is the life cycle of gymnosperm? That can be depicted like this. Okay. So what is this reproduction? How this reproduction, how the life cycle goes, that we are going to discuss. So first of all, if you see, this is of pine. Okay, which life cycle of pine we are showing. So the fully grown plant of pinus is a large tree giving rise to a series of widespread branches. The trees has a typical pyramidal shape because the lateral branches are almost horizontal and their length gradually decreases from below upwards. Okay, from below upwards. So here the pines are largely distributed in Himalayas in our India. So however, Pinus roxburghii is also commonly found in all plains. Right. So what is that commonly found? Pinus roxburghii. Right. Okay. Which is commonly, so the pine stem, they bear two types of branches of unlimited growth or long shoots, and branches of limited growth, they are called as dwarf shoots. Depending on the species they develop, so the leaves remain covered by a thick cuticle and have sunken stomata and a hypodermis of thick walled cells. Okay, Pinus are monoecious, which means that the male and female reproductive structures are known as cones only, occur on different branches of the small same tree. Okay, so it has a well-known vascular plant. It is a well-known vascular plant in a terrestrial environment. It was due to the development of vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. The water absorbed by the roots from the soil is transported to above ground leaves, okay, through xylem, and the ascent of sap in the tall trees that takes place through xylem vessels only. Okay, the development of the seed habit is present in a present day conifers or others, and other gymnosperms are well known for the flowering plant. They remove the need for the liquid water during fertilization, right? So the pollen cones are ripened quickly. They are releasing yellow clouds of pollen grains to the wind. Female cones either on the same tree or on the different tree, they may trap the floating winged pollens, right? After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds. In a winter, when the seed cones mature and the cone scales open, winged seeds are released to the wind, right? So most of the pine cones they found on the ground are seed cones which have already released seeds. In pine cone formation, to seed dispersal takes about 2 years. How many years it takes? 2 years it takes, right? So here the fertilization, embryo 2 and new sporophyte is formed here, you can see. So that again grown into a pine seed, and then again the dispersal took and the seed become a mature sporophyte, right? So there is lot of economic importance. Most of the conifers they produce enormous amounts of soft wood for construction, packing, plywoods, poles, matchboxes, particle boards and paper industries, right? The valuable drug which is present here, valuable drug is present in this, that is known as ephedrine, which is obtained from the species called as ephedra, right? The seeds of the pinus, the seeds of the one of the variety of the pine plant is Pinus gerardiana. They are edible. They are known as chilgoza, right? Here the Pinus gerardiana. It gives a edible seed. What is that edible seed called as? Chilgoza, right? So division angiosperms, the flowering plants, large group of habitats inhabiting a wide range of habitats. The pollen grains and ovules are well developed in structures. They are called as flowers. Seeds are enclosed by fruits. Range from tiny, almost microscopic Wolfia to tall trees like eucalyptus. They are of two main groups, okay, monocotyledons and dicotyledons. So angiosperms are flowering plants. They form the largest group of plant kingdom. They are around 2,50,000. Species are present in this group, and they considered to be the highest evolved plants on the surface of the earth, right? They occur in deep lakes, deserts, in beds of the seas, and even on high peaks of mountains at about 6,000 meters above the sea level. Generally we find it. Some species are found in rocks, some in waterfalls, some in hot springs like 60 degrees Celsius, and also some are in marine. Okay, the species called Rhizophora, they popularly known as mangrove vegetations. They found near the water of the seas, right? Next, the species of Opuntia, they can survive without water in acute desert conditions, right? Opuntia can survive. Whereas the other hand, if you see the species called as Hydrilla, they are extremely sensitive to drought conditions. So here, when I am discussing here, we found three different varieties. One can survive in drought, one can survive in normal water, one can survive in near the waters. So epiphytes, parasites, sporophytes, symbionts, or even insectivorous plants are also not uncommon here, right? Angiosperms, angios means vessel or receptacle, sperma means seed, right? What is the meaning of angio? Vessel or receptacle, and the sperma means seed. Okay. So which have the ovules always born in a closed sporophyll which is called as carpel. The micro and megasporophylls are arranged in the flowers which may have bisexual or unisexual. So the male sex organ in a flower is stamen. So each stamen is consist of a slender filament and an anther at the tip. So anther produces the pollen grains by meiosis. The female sex organ is a pistil or the carpel. Each pistil is consist of ovary, style and stigma. The ovary encloses one or the more ovules. Within the ovule, the highly reduced female gametophyte embryo sacs are present. So embryo sac is a 7-celled 8 nucleated structure. Embryo sac contains 1 egg cell, 2 synergids, 3 antipodal cells and 1 central cells. So in the angiosperms, the pollen grains are received on the stigma of the carpel and the fertilization takes place by the development of the pollen tubes. When it falls down the pollen tube, it develops. The two male gametes are without flagella, one unite with X and the other with secondary nucleus. So the double fertilization or triple fusion is the characteristic of flowering plants. Okay, what is the main characteristic? Remember, double fertilization undergoes or triple fusion, right? Most common of all the land plants, only on the land only they generally grows. These plants they may be seen everywhere around us, around the house. So in the field, the florist shop, in the parks, gardens and other places, all the places we find. Okay, flowering plants are the most dominant and successful of all the plants. So this success is largely a result of a unique organ, the flower. Okay, so the flowering plants, they provide us cereals, pulses, vegetables, fruits, fibers, gums, resins, tannins. Okay, so these all how it is becoming a fruit. From flower to fruit, the journey we are going to discuss. The polar nuclei fuses to form a secondary nucleus. Diploids of pollen grains after dispersal from anthers are carried by the wind or other agents to the stigma of the pistil, termed as pollination. So fertilization in angiosperms is termed as double fertilization. The synergies and antipodals, they degenerate after fertilization. The ovules develop to form seeds and the ovaries develop into fruits. Okay, so the distinctive reproductive structure of the angiosperms is the flower only. So here how it takes place, that we are going to discuss. The flower is a metamorphosed shoot meant essentially for the reproduction of the plant. So the sporophylls are of two kinds: microsporophylls, which are called as stamens, and megasporophylls, which are called as carpels. Right? Right? So both the kinds of sporophylls may be present in a flower, or only one may be seen in few flowers. So complete flower has 4 groups of structures, one group within the other. So they are like sepals. Sepals are called as calyx. Sepals are called as calyx. Then it comes to the petals, they are called as corolla. Then it comes to the stamens, where it is called as andrecium. Next one is carpels, that is called as gynoecium. Right? Sepals can be studied on the outside, whereas the carpels of the flower are at the center of the flower, so it is difficult. So the gynoecium is the female whole of the flower. It is composed of carpels. Carpels are also called as megasporophylls. Please do remember, right? The androecium of the male whole of the flower, which is consist of stamens or microsporophylls, which are regarded as the male organ of the flower. Each stamen that is consist of three parts. Each stamen is consist of three parts, that is called as filament, anther. Next one is connective, right? So the pollen grains, they germinate on stigma, producing a germ tube in which the male gametes, which are in two in structure, they develop as a gymnosperm. So the pollen tube travels down the stigma through the ovary and into the ovule, whereas the fertilization takes place. Okay. Following fertilization, the ovule forms the seed while the ovary forms the fruit. So finally, what we can conclude, angiosperms or the flowering plants, the seeds are enclosed in a fruit. That's why they are known as covered seeds. Okay. So here this is the process which it takes place when the seed is formed. Okay. One fuses with egg to form zygote. There it gives the embryo which is within the cotyledon. So other fuses with secondary nuclei to form the primary endosperm nucleus, which produces the endosperm, which provides nourishment to the embryo. So here is the life cycle of an angiosperm. You can see from flower to again seed, and it is growing again. Okay, here only we find the introduction of the life cycles also. So plant life cycles, if you see, plant life cycles, there is a alternation of generations between haploid gametophyte and diploid sporophyte in the life cycle of a plant. In plants, both haploid and diploid cells can divide by mitosis. The complete series of events from zygote formation to gamete production, they constitute the plant life cycle, which includes all the processes which are involved from within the growth, development and reproduction of the plant species. Right, so there only two different plant bodies are formed, haploid and diploid. The haploid plant body produces gametes by mitosis and represents a gametophyte. Mitotic division is encountered in diploid cells when zygote divides by mitosis to produce sporophytic plant body after fertilization. Okay, so this sporophyte produces haploid spores by meiosis. Spores in turn undergo mitosis to form haploid plant body. Right? So types of life cycles in plants, if you see, there are three different plant life cycles. One is haploid, that is only called as haplontic life cycle. Second one is diploid, which is called as diplontic life cycle. And the third one is haploid and diploid together it is. So haploid organism, which is consist of a multicellular structure. In this, the sporophyte is represented by one-celled zygote. There is no free living sporophyte. Right? So zygote undergoes meiotic division to produce spores which divide mitotically and form gametophyte. So gametophyte is the dominant phase in this life cycle as it is dominant, free living and photosynthetic. Algae such as Spirogyra and some species of Chlamydomonas have this type of life cycle. A haploid organism, which is a multicellular structure of cells, they contain only one set of chromosomes, right? Whereas diploid organisms, diplontic life cycle, if you see, diploid sporophyte is a dominant phase as it is free living and photosynthetic. So gametophyte is a single two few cell. Example, all seed bearing plants, gymnosperms and angiosperms, some algae like fucus, right? A diploid organism, multicellular stage, it contains two sets of chromosomes. of the haplid organism, there are some fungi that go through a dikaryotic phase, and some plants and fungi, okay, so are now placed in a separate kingdom from plants, the fungi kingdom that lack a dikaryotic phase, right? Next one is haplodiplontic life cycle, where both are included. Intermediate condition of that is both gametophyte and sporophyte are free living and multicellular but have different dominant phases. In bryophytes, haploid gametophyte is dominant, independent and photosynthetic. It alternates with a short-lived multicellular sporophyte totally or partially dependent on gametophyte for nutrition and anchorage. Right? So in pteridophytes, diploid sporophyte is dominant, independent and photosynthetic. It alternates with short-lived haploid gametophyte which is independent or sporophyte. Right? In the haplodiplontic life cycle, there are two multicellular generations: a haploid 1n gametophyte alternating with diploid 2n sporophyte. There is an alteration of either similar or dissimilar generations. In the first case, the 1n gametophyte is morphologically identical to the 2n. 1n is identical to the 2n sporophyte except for the reproductive structures, while in the latter case, and the two generations are morphologically different. For the alteration of dissimilar generations, there are three possible relationships between the gametophyte and sporophyte. Number one, both are totally independent of each other at maturity. Here maturity means each being free living. So next one is the sporophyte is dominant, or the third one is the gametophyte is dominant. So this is about the haplodiplontic life cycle. So hope you liked the session. Okay, this is about the three different plant life cycles: haploid, diploid, and other haploid diploidic or haplodiplontic life cycle it is. Right? So with this I am ending the session. Any doubts, please do ask me in the Telegram channel. Telegram group is there. In the description box में already I have given. Just join me and ask your doubts right from 9th to 12th. So bye bye. Take care. Be safe. Be strong and be confident. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care. जितना ज़्यादा हो सके अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ शेयर करो. राइट? फ्रेंड्स के साथ शेयर करो. थैंक यू. बाय बाय. ऑल द बेस्ट.